This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special current state of WWE, more like a preview and prediction show, because it is the official preview and prediction show for Survivor Series War Games that is coming to you this Saturday, and we've got a lot of potential, returns out there. We'll dive into those, whether or not we think they're going to happen. Of course, with this whole event being in Chicago, we all know the number one name that people are throwing around, and we'll talk about that and that possibility. But this is really centered on War Games. The two matches, the men's and the women's War Games matches, a total of 5 matches on the card. So it's going to be a lengthy War Games match for the men and women, but it gives other opportunities for the rest of the men and women on the card to have and tell a good story, 15-minute matches or so, maybe 20 minutes. And that's been the Triple H regime. So, Anthony, welcome to the show. And what do you think about this Survivor Series card?
You know, the card, I think, is going to deliver. How many do we have? Any championship matches? We have the Intercontinental Championship. Is the U.S. title being defended on SmackDown by Logan Paul?
I'm looking. I don't see Logan Paul. I see the Intercontinental Championship. I don't see the U.S. title.
And we have the Women's World Championship, Rhea versus what's her face, Zoe Stark. So, look. Survivor Series has never really been centered around the championships. It's always been champions in the Survivor Series matches. You've had the odd one, like the first ever Elimination Chamber or the triple threat match at Survivor Series 2000 when the Big Show won his first ever WWF championship. But it's not typically been centered around the championships. But I find the lack of championship defenses at this year's Survivor Series is kind of amplifying a feeling that I've had going back a few years now, and it's that Survivor Series has kind of lost its aura about being one of the big four. And you could always make the case that it was number 4 on the totem pole, certainly behind Rumble, certainly behind Mania, and maybe neck and neck with SummerSlam. But with SummerSlam having the whole mantra of the WrestleMania of the summer, it always felt like Survivor Series was the fourth in line, but it was still lumped in with those pay-per-views. But with Crown Jewel taking off like it has, with the excitement of Money in the Bank, with the way Elimination Chamber has been being held outside the United States for 3 consecutive years now, it just feels like Survivor Series has almost been relegated to a B-level pay-per-view, and a lot of the exhibition matches over the years of Raw versus SmackDown contribute to that, and now War Games is contributing to that, and it isn't for brand supremacy like it had been for, 5 consecutive years, from 2016 to 2021, I want to say. But now that Roman Reigns isn't even competing at the show, it just feels like it isn't the same as it used to be.
This, if you didn't know that this was Survivor Series, and you put this card in front of somebody, they would think that this is a B or C level event. I mean, they'd just be looking at this and going, "Oh, is this one of those random events they have in Asia that they don't really televise?" And I don't mean that. I guess I'm being a little bit exaggerative, but my point about this is, outside of the name brand value of what Survivor Series used to mean, you wouldn't look at this and go, "Oh my God, this card's going to kick ass." And I've honestly felt that way, though, a lot about a lot of the Triple H events, as we have mentioned over the months, of underwhelming card, underwhelming build, but then you come out of it going, "Wow, that was awesome." And I expect this to do the same, where the talents are able to speak for themselves and do what they do best, which is in-ring, tell stories, and kick ass. And I think that all of these men and women will, and I think that will be the saving grace coming out of this. But honestly, no World Heavyweight Championship match, which actually I could take a break from. I honestly,
that's a good point.
I'm okay that Seth is not defending his championship. I mean, he needs to breathe a bit on those defenses. But I mean, of course, with Roman Reigns, and I honestly can't believe that Roman Reigns, and I don't want to go on too much of a tangent here, but the fact that we are now in the unofficial start of WrestleMania season, to me, I always look at Survivor Series as okay, we're starting to get there now. it's really almost inexplicable that Roman isn't here defending it, or even in any capacity presumably going to be here. It's unacceptable. It's inexplicable. It's downright insulting, honestly, to the championship and everyone that on the card that would have had an opportunity. And you and I have gone chapter and verse about how this is not a good idea anymore. There's nothing left to be gained. I don't care what he does the rest of the way. But this is, it's just becoming an absolute joke now with Roman not here. It's starting to be the most important time of the year, not there, not defending his belt. And we are just a couple of months away from the official start to WrestleMania season, taking another 2 months off. I mean, I don't know if you want to touch quickly on that.
I mean, it just feels like we've artificially built his path to WrestleMania already. Because when has a world title ever really changed at the Royal Rumble? Like, the Royal Rumble never sees a significant title change. Like, I mean, that's like the start of the road to WrestleMania, and like changing like typically world titles do not change between the Rumble or the turn of the calendar. Well, I guess there are exceptions to the rule. Like, the one that popped in my head was Cena regaining the WWE Championship from Edge's cash-in like 3 weeks later, which was bizarre in and of itself. But I guess they were just trying to get their feet wet with Edge as a world champion and main eventer at that time. But there's always the exception to the rules and the outliers. But, like, I mean, I can't really think of a recent history of world titles changing at Rumble or No Way Out or Roadblock or Elimination Chamber, any of the numerous pay-per-views that they've had between Rumble and Mania. I guess the only semi-recent one, and we're still going back 7 years, would probably be, or 6 years. No, it will be 7 years. Bray Wyatt at the Elimination Chamber in 2017. So, I mean, and, you know, Bray Wyatt winning that championship is nowhere near the significance of the run that we've seen Roman Reigns on. So, I guess in a roundabout way, because of the history over the last 20 years or so of the title not really changing hands at Survivor or at No Way Out or any pay-per-view in February or the Royal Rumble, it feels like they've just artificially inflated another 4 or 5 months onto Roman Reigns' run, and he'll probably only defend the title maximum twice, and that's even if he defends it at the Elimination Chamber between now and WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's a good point too, is once you get to Rumble, I mean, everything's kind of locked in for all intents and purposes, with outliers, of course. They can do, changes, but it's more the exception than the rule, with champions who are champions, especially the top champions, tend to stay in place when you get to WrestleMania from Rumble. So you're right. At this point, by extension, with Roman Reigns not being at Survivor Series, he's not going to be there purportedly until Royal Rumble time. At the very minimum, he'll defend his belt there. Maybe he won't even defend it. Who the hell knows? And at that point, yeah, it's already locked in. So you're locked in because he's not there for 2 months, which continues this pattern of just artificially inflating his run, which is just getting insane. The only time I can think of, like you said, beyond that, the Bray Wyatt was Brock. Did Brock Lesnar? Didn't he beat Big E in a or a fatal 5-way or something to win the WWE Championship? And then
day one, right before the Rumble.
Yeah, okay, so not even in really WrestleMania season, so to speak. So, I mean, that's all I can think of outside of it. Then I'm going way back to having The Rock beat Kurt Angle at No Way Out to set up WrestleMania 17. So, that's it. It doesn't happen too often. So, yeah, everything's locked into place. I would imagine even Seth Rollins is locked into place as world champion heading into the WrestleMania season. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about the card here with 5 matches. The first match is Carlito versus Santos Escobar. Take it away.
I mean, I'm going to go with Santos Escobar. I mean, I don't see that there's a reason for Carlito to win. I think they're doing something really cool here with Santos Escobar. I think that they're going to try and revive that Legado del Fantasma character that I thought was always a better character than the LWO. And I get why they shifted it babyface to the LWO, but I think that it's just way more entertaining with Santos Escobar as a heel leaning into the like a cartel type of gimmick. But I mean, Carlito, like, he's come back here as kind of a legacy star. No real reason for him to win. So it's Santos Escobar, and I don't think it should be a tough choice either.
No, This is a slam dunk. I do wish they kept Carlito's old music. I have to say, I don't know why they changed it. But Carlito got himself into really good shape, and I commend him for that. And he's been a valuable asset to the LWO, bringing nostalgia back, but also kind of a new flavor to the group. And I like that. But again, there's no reason for Carlito to win here. None. This is 100% Santos, as you mentioned. This Legado del Fantasma that never really got off the ground because they were suddenly doing an event in Puerto Rico. They had to go, well, we got to stop that and reform the LWO to get the fans excited, and it worked. It really worked well. But I never got to, and we didn't get to see the Legado del Fantasma, and Zelina Vega was a part of that, and what she did slapping Santos on SmackDown was it was impactful. And so you have a guy that had cut really a career defining promo up to this point, really on the rise. The crowd was giving him a ton of heat, and this is all about Santos. I expect Santos to maybe cheat to win. I don't care how he wins, and then maybe brutalize Carlito, and you don't see Carlito for a while. And this is all Santos Escobar. I would 100% agree. There's just no scenario, no world, no way in which Carlito comes out on top here. There's no need for it. So,
but would there even be a slight justification for Carlito coming back on top?
Other than to just do a post-match beatdown of Santos. I mean, having Carlito win, and then Santos as a sore loser, pretends to shake his hand and then kicks him in the nuts, and then just goes to town and beats him senseless. I mean, that's he's attacking people from behind, so that's kind of his brand right now, is being that cowardly heel of doing, the from behind attacks. So that's the only scenario in which I could see Carlito winning, is in a way that just still puts over Santos.
Yeah, there's just not really much to break down here. If you want to try and be a contrarian, you could try and think of a reason to justify Carlito winning, but there's not much time to spend on this match.
No. All right, well, then the Intercontinental Championship match is a little more fun here. The Miz versus Gunther, and what is your pick?
Look, it's going to be Gunther, and I know a lot of people probably feel the same way as, the way that we feel about Santos winning, that Gunther should be a slam dunk, and he probably is. But I do think that the Miz's Intercontinental Championship reign in 2016 should hold some value here. Because if we're being real, man, aside before Gunther's championship run that he's on right now, was The Miz not the most relevant Intercontinental Champion of the last 15 years or so?
He was one of them, no doubt.
So I do hope that they pull on this story, and I think that they have. Gunther should win, The Miz shouldn't win, but I mean, there is a small case to be made that from a writing perspective and a long-term booking perspective, and even from kind of a payoff perspective, that The Miz would make somewhat sense to dethrone Gunther. I don't think it should be him. I don't think it will be him. But you could do loads worse than The Miz being the one to dethrone Gunther, just because of how legitimate of a champion he was, and just because of how I believe in real life he cares about making that championship relevant. And I think that if you take away the character, I have a lot of respect for the guy, Mike Mizanin. I do think the character has run its course a lot. I'm interested in this new babyface version of himself, but still kind of like a sleazeball, kind of in an endearing way. And I have a newfound respect for The Miz, that you've realized he's just quietly gone about his business for 15 years and been a constant and always there. And even when he's been given crap to deal with, he's usually delivered from a story and in-ring perspective. I don't think it should be him. I don't think it will be him. My pick is Gunther, but I don't think it should be considered a slam dunk, and I don't think it would be the worst choice in the world either.
This is one that I usually would fall into the trap of, this has to be Gunther. And honestly, would I still book it that way? Yes. But to WWE's credit and Mike's credit, they have done a nice job of being able to turn The Miz from essentially a career heel into a sympathetic character in just a matter of weeks. And that's a credit to everyone involved. And that there is something to be said for Miz's run from about 7 years ago. There's no doubt about that. That was one of the more memorable runs. Of course, that led to the Daniel Bryan talking smack incident, one of the most infamous promos he's had in his career. But I ultimately, this is difficult for me, because what I'm looking at is Gunther's career, Gunther's future getting into the WrestleMania season. And if it is true that Brock Lesnar is going to face Gunther at WrestleMania, because I don't see Gunther winning the Rumble, it's not, even though he was the runner-up last year, I don't think it's just the way that the players, the champions are being laid out here. You still have LA Knight maybe competing with Seth Rollins. You, of course, have Cody probably competing with Roman Reigns. And then that's it. There's the 2 spots are filled. There's nothing left for Gunther to do in terms of top championships. So I would imagine that if you're going to get Gunther with Brock, you don't want Gunther as the Intercontinental Champion facing Brock, because then Brock doesn't care about the IC belt. They wouldn't put the belt on Brock. So you got to get the belt off Gunther so that somebody else can have some time with it to actually make it worth its value. So I think Miz actually might win here. I'm going to pick the Miz in a shocker. Because
wow.
I'm picking the Miz only because of WrestleMania season and Gunther moving forward. There's no PLE in December unless they want to have Gunther lose sometime in December on a Monday Night Raw. They could have him lose at the Rumble. And I'm going to go with the Miz here in a shocker. And how does the Miz win, though? I'm not going to say that the Miz beats Gunther outright, because that would prepare him very poorly for Brock Lesnar and very poorly for WrestleMania season. I would imagine there could be a return. There could be maybe a mix-up with with Imperium, because Imperium's been falling apart lately. With Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, they haven't been exactly getting along. There could be a turn here or an accidental mix-up that has Gunther lose the championship. The Miz captures the belt. The streak is over. They've already gotten the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. So they've already crossed the finish line. They're there. So now they can do whatever they want. And I think you have Gunther drop it here. Most people are expecting the Miz to lose, but I would say Miz wins, really propels him into the babyface category, and of course protects Gunther because there's a mix-up. And then you have Gunther going into WrestleMania season not with a belt, ready to face Brock Lesnar.
So do you think, this is your prediction, but do you think it's a good idea from a creative perspective?
No. I don't. I don't think it's awful. I would just go at least one more victory for Gunther and have him lose it at Rumble, maybe against Miz and maybe a returning Big E. I mean, when you think about returns, maybe Big E throws himself back into the mix here and gets himself involved in the IC title. He's been an IC champion before. You could do that. And that way you have Gunther lose in a triple threat at Rumble, and then you are able to protect him, having him not be involved in the fall, and then you can ride into Brock Lesnar. I'm just thinking that when WWE is looking at this, and they know that, my God, these 3, especially not the War Games, but the 3 that are not the War Games matches, they're going, this is so predictable. We got to do something here that will, get some people talking and won't damage us and won't really be, short-sighted. I don't think it's really that short-sighted. It just may be a tick too early for me. I wouldn't book it this way. I'm just trying to think like WWE, because the last few pay-per-views, they've done things that you're like, oh, okay, they're doing things here that you don't expect. They're doing at least 1 or 2 outcomes every pay-per-view that you don't expect. So that's really what's driving me is more of the unpredictability on WWE's part.
Yeah, so. I mean, like I said, it's not the worst idea in the world. And I think that the Miz deserve, because you're not a huge fan of the character The Miz, but have you had like a newfound respect for him?
He's more tolerable as a babyface, which is weird, because usually, that kind of a character I would despise as a babyface, but he, and think he panders to fans, but he doesn't. He just turns off the annoying parts of him. I really don't. I don't hate The Miz. I don't like The Miz. To me, The Miz is just kind of there. I respect him. He still looks like he's fresh out of the real world. He hasn't aged a day. Somehow he's found the fountain of youth. He's like Jonathan Coachman, who just has not been able to age. He's just frozen in time, and good for him. But I don't know. Like he's tolerable, and I'm willing to give it a shot with him as Intercontinental Champion. I love Gunther as Intercontinental Champion. Don't get me wrong. He is one of the best, if not the best, IC champion I've seen in my lifetime as a wrestling fan. So I wouldn't do this. I would push Gunther a little further, maybe even to Mania. But again, if that match is Brock, you can't have the belt there, and maybe you get Gunther involved and have him drop it here a little bit early, and then have him try to recapture, and he ends up failing. A couple of times. So I'm just going. I don't honestly like. I know that this is a very small chance, but I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve, and I'll probably be proved totally wrong. So,
well, to be honest, it makes a lot of sense because I love Gunther. You love Gunther. We both kind of agree that he's going to be a future world champion, and that's not anything profound, but it does feel like we're getting to the finish line with the Intercontinental title. Like, it's getting to that point where, like, what more needs to be proved? You know what I mean? Like, I feel, and it's not because we're sick of Gunther. I just think in his title run specifically, like, it's gone as far as it needs to go. He's held it for what, almost 18 months now, maybe a bit less. I think he got it in the end of June of 2022. He's already broken the record. He's dominated competition. And it doesn't always have to be an up-and-comer. Sometimes it could be someone who deserves it as a legacy star. You know, I thought in a weird roundabout way it could have been Sheamus, but The Miz, given his history with that championship, does make sense. And your point is very well founded as well. The timing of this to prepare Gunther to the to WrestleMania season would be very smart. I think if it's not now, it has to be by the Rumble latest. Like, you can't have him surpass the Rumble as the Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, that's probably where I would do it, is the Rumble. It feels a little early, but to kind of summarize both of our points, this feels like the first time where we're like, well, it wouldn't be the worst thing, you know, like this is the first event where even though The Miz isn't a threatening opponent per se to Gunther, and he shouldn't really be, he's not playing the heel. He is the baby face. And I think people wouldn't lose their minds if Gunther lost the belt here. He's already the top running champion of all time. And we're getting close to Mania season. And I think it would be a signal to fans that, okay, he's not an Intercontinental Champion anymore, but we have something bigger on the horizon for him. And I think that's really what you could do. But this is the first one you could at least make the argument that it wouldn't be the worst thing. Because, as you said, we're there. We're there. I don't think fans would be too up in arms about it. I think fans would give Mike Mizanin a pretty big pop for winning the IC championship. I really do. And it would get people talking and social media buzzing and all that kind of thing. So I really don't think I honestly think there's a little bit more good than bad from this. This is the first time that the scales have slightly tipped for me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And obviously beyond this, the execution would be the execution beyond just the actual title win and how his run would play out would be very crucial here. I don't imagine that he would have a very long run. And I feel like, for me, I'm not going to lie, it feels like the Intercontinental Champion in waiting is Bronson Reed in a lot of way, but you need that babyface buffer to get it over to Bronson Reed. Like that's how I'm kind of envisioning like the next, let's say, 6 months of the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Big Bronson Reed. Yeah, that's very true. All right. All right, yeah, I know. They had to come up with something. They came up with well, I mean, to be fair, they came up with the Big Show, and that somehow worked. So, all right, let's get to the Women's World Championship match. Zoe Stark and Rhea Ripley. I mean, I'll just put it out there. I'll just say there is no playing around in this one. This is not the Intercontinental Championship debate. To me, this is a lock it up, throw away the key decision. There's nothing to mess around with here. It's Rhea Ripley. Now, that's not to say Zoe Stark can have a good match. She absolutely should. She'll have some cool hope spots, but nobody seemed to be into her character last week, and with good reason. I mean, we don't even know who Zoe Stark is outside of she was Trish's sidekick doing her dirty work for several months in a program that went way too long with Becky Lynch. But we know she's really good in the ring, but personality-wise, character-wise, there's not a lot of connection with the fans. There is zero reason to play games with this match. None at all. And Rhea Ripley should come out 100% on top. Your thoughts?
What you gonna do, brother, when the crypto bull run comes to you? The ticker is SmackDown on Ethereum blockchain, brother. We're the first and only wrestling-themed crypto, and we're bridging wrestling and cryptocurrency to make the most electrifying meme coin in crypto history. Ooh. Meme coins like Doge, Pepe, and Shiba Inu are leading the upcoming bull run, and we got the juice to turn our two passions into the next crypto phenomenon. Join the community at SmackDown.pro. The coin is Stone Cold Rock Cena Macho McMahon SmackDown 10 Inu, and the ticker is SmackDown. Just remember, brother, it's for life.
Yeah, I mean, It's funny. I have a buddy who's usually big into wrestling, but he's fallen out of it. You know, life gets in the way the last 6 months or so. And he asked me a few days ago, like, so how has it been with Rhea Ripley on Monday Night Raw? And I said, you know what? In a lot of ways, she's the face of Monday Night Raw. She's arguably the biggest star Monday Night Raw has, but her title run has been disappointing. If that makes sense, and how both things can coexist at the same time. And I think it's because they've built up her character so well as kind of like the evil mastermind of the Judgment Day. And like I said, the face of Monday Night Raw and dominant woman. And like just the way that she's like kind of really become like a master manipulator on the men's side. But on the women's side, they haven't been able to build a single legitimate threat to her. And you look at the amount of time she's defended the championship on pay-per-view. I think it's been 4 times she's defended it on a PLE against Zelina Vega, Raquel Rodriguez, the fatal 5-way match. Like, this is going to be number 4 or 5. I know she had a few title defenses on Monday Night Raw, but I think that this is yet another example where, yeah, we're going to get a really good match. I do like Zoe Stark. I think she has a bright future. I think she's really good in the ring, but she is not even close to have built up enough legitimacy to even be a slight threat to Rhea Ripley's championship run. So yeah, this is very similar to Santos Escobar against Carlito, and probably even more of a definitive choice that Rhea Ripley will win this, and it'll probably be a very good in-ring match. Like, both women can bring it inside the squared circle, but as far as the outcome goes, it's going to be Rhea Ripley, and I don't think that there's room for much debate.
No, I mean, the good thing is, though, this is at least what should be happening with these championships, is helping to build new stars. And sure, we may not be super excited about Zoe Stark going into this. We may not know a whole lot about her. No one's going to pick her to win, but the focus on Zoe is going to be the quality of the match, the story she can tell. How well does she work with Rhea? How does she perform on the biggest stage of her career? This is, for her, the biggest match of her entire career, arguably. So for her, it's not about winning, because no one thinks she's going to win. It's about, how do you maximize your minutes? How do you pull the crowd in? How can you make them believe when none of them believe? That's the goal for Zoe, is to make people feel something when people going in mostly feel very lukewarm, and that may be being kind about her character. So that's, to me, the goal for her. It's not about the win. That's not even in the universe of discussion for me, because there's nothing to be gained from that. So yeah, that's also a good point about Rhea Ripley, where you have her be the face of Raw. Her character has been beautifully developed. She's performed at an exceptionally high level as the face of the Judgment Day and one of the faces of Monday Night Raw. But at the same time, they haven't really done a good job of integrating her championship run into that. It's always been oddly like a side story, or at times forgotten, because the Judgment Day's business with whoever, with Cody, with Seth, with Sammy, with Kevin, that's always been the primary goal. And she's been wheeling and dealing and kind of the unspoken leader of the Judgment Day. And that's taken precedence. But it like you said, it's always been excellent character development. She has skyrocketed her career, but oh yeah, she's the champion. Can we at some point bring that in? And it's been weird. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very much like Santos versus Carlito. There's just not much to dissect here. Rhea Ripley's going to win, and hopefully by the time Rumble, and more specifically Mania, rolls around, we're going to get more of a legitimate threat than Zoe Stark.
Absolutely. I'm with you. All right, well, let's get to the 2 matches that are going to take up probably 45 minutes each. And that is first the Women's War Games match with Charlotte, Bianca, Shotzi, Becky versus Damage Control's, suddenly tripled their membership. Bayley, Kairi Sane, Asuka, Io Sky. And this match, it is a 4-on-4. I was of the belief that it was supposed to be 5-on-5. I don't know if that's just forever burned in my brain that every Survivor Series elimination match has to be 5-on-5. Maybe that's just an old habit. Or maybe the War Games matches in the past have been 5-on-5. I don't hate this. That means it's a shorter match. For me, 4-on-4 is fine. I honestly don't give a damn about which team has, quote unquote, the advantage. You and I have discussed at length about how these rules make no sense, and there really is no team that's advantaged. There's only one fall to a finish. This is not elimination, which I think is a also massive mistake, and kind of takes a little of the fun away from what Survivor Series is. But I honestly, I still haven't made my pick. I've been on the fence about this, so I'll let you choose first.
I think it's going to be Damage Control, and they're just going to continue planting the seeds of Bayley and Io Sky. And I think that this is probably going to lead to WrestleMania story. It's probably going to be very similar to when they planted the seeds last year with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, where like you thought was Sami going to turn in the match against like the Brawling Brutes, KO and Drew McIntyre, but then at the end he hits KO in the back with the chair, and then Jay embraces him, and then it ultimately builds to the turn at the Royal Rumble. I think they're going to kind of use the same template with Bayley and the rest of Damage Control, and they're going to end up getting the victory. Because you look at the babyface sides of things, Becky coming over from Raw to SmackDown, Charlotte, Shotzi, Bianca, it's just like a not misfit toy. Well, Shotzi's a misfit toys, but you just took like the three biggest baby faces you have on the women's side, thrown them together for no real reason or cause, as opposed to the women, the heel side, that there's a lot of story to tell. And now I'm actually intrigued. I'm really intrigued where they're going with this, because I think it's leading to a Bayley babyface turn and an eventual babyface run as the champion, but in her current version of herself. And I think we broke it down last week. We're ready for it. So I think it's going to be the heel side. I'm pretty confident with that because there's so much of a story to continue to tell. And the one caveat I'll say is that the one time in Survivor Series history that the teams were 4-on-4 was 2004. Team Angle versus Team Eddie Guerrero was 4-on-4. And Team Triple H versus Team Randy Orton was 4-on-4. So that was the only other time that I can remember that each side was 4.
Okay, so I always, for some reason, it's always been 5-on-5 for me, and I guess it sounds from the stats you're telling me, most of the time it is 5-on-5. But okay, so it has happened a few times before. And to your point about this match, I absolutely think that Bayley is eventually going to get turned on. She will be the babyface. She even showed a little hesitation this week about how I forget who said it, that somebody's, Asuka's not officially, or somebody's in this group has not officially been anointed a member, and Bayley was kind of like paused like for a minute as if they're going to turn on her. And so I think that's coming. Bayley as a babyface is a very intriguing character for me. And it only took 18 months to actually give a damn about this group. So that's something where we all were waiting for them to just die off and never be spoken of again. Suddenly they've been reinvigorated, and now we're all waiting for the turn and eventually a Bayley. So I would agree that, that's going to be the focus, but I also do think that the Island of Misfit Toys is a great way to put all these women together, because all of them have really nothing in common other than just they don't like Damage Control. Which also, why doesn't Becky Lynch like Damage Control? I don't understand. What happened with? Did I miss something, or did they just need star power in this match? Because suddenly she comes over from Raw. There's no explanation as to how or why that happened. Suddenly Charlotte and Becky Lynch put their differences aside for a common cause of Damage Control. It doesn't make sense to me. This whole crossover crap, as you know, drives me up a wall. And that also happened with Mr. Politician on SmackDown, and we'll talk about him next. But honestly, when it comes to my pick, I'm gonna go with Damage Control too, because they need the win more. They've been reinforced. And I think that Charlotte, Bianca, Shotzi, and Becky have no chemistry whatsoever. I don't need to see them as a team. They're really not a team. They're just 4 individuals thrown together for this match. So Damage Control wins. Shotzi takes the fall. Baby Bayley or Kairi Sane are the ones who pin Shotzi, and that's probably how this ends. And really a fun, violent match that's going to be a lot of near falls and off the cage and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's all very accurate. I just, there's no reason for the babyface side to win here. Like, they're all kind of just lost out at sea right now, all 4 of them. I don't know why Shotzi's in this. Like, I don't see it with Shotzi. Full disclosure, I don't get it. I briefly cared when Bayley shaved her head, but that seems to have been thrown by the wayside. Like, I think you pointed out, like, were we supposed to just be scared of her because she had a new haircut? Like, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
But I am intrigued about Bayley and the what I would imagine is the impending falling out with Damage Control. I think the fact that you have now 3 members who all speak the same language or of the same origin will, I guess, add to the whole mysteriousness of Io Sky, and that they can communicate without Bayley really understanding what's going on. They could be way more conniving and deceiving. So I'm very intrigued with Damage Control. And to your point, it only took, 15 months?
Yeah, really. I mean, seriously, since SummerSlam of last year until, when they originally debuted against Bianca Belair. So yeah, this is I'm sure it'll be a fun match. I have no doubt about that. And yeah, all right. Well, let's move on to the men's War Games match. Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Seth Rollins versus the Judgment Day's Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough, and Damian Priest. I'll just say my prediction. I won't give my logic yet, but I'm pretty sure the baby faces come out on top here. And go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the baby faces do have a reason here to come out on top. You have to make Seth continue to look strong into WrestleMania season. Cody Rhodes is being positioned presumably to be the one to once again take on Roman Reigns. Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, I would imagine, are going to have semi-significant programs going into WrestleMania season as well. And then on the heel side, I mean, they've looked strong. Judgment Day has been running Monday Night Raw in a lot of capacities, and I think that them losing will maybe hint at maybe a breakup that's coming, one of their characters getting ousted. I find that Judgment Day is more interesting when they come off of a loss because of all the individuals and maybe the further dissolution of, Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Now that I almost called him DJ McDonough, JD McDonough, reversed his initials, is now an official member. I always look for what's the best story to tell coming out of it. And I feel like a great story could be told with Judgment Day losing this big match here. Now, again, what kind of role is Drew McIntyre going to play into all this? Mm-hmm. Like, what kind of role is Randy Orton going to play into all this? Is CM Punk going to have a role? But Drew McIntyre here is arguably now the most intriguing character at this very moment in WWE. For me, just because, as you said, did he turn heel? Did he join to the Judgment Day? Is he just a mercenary? Is he playing Rhea Ripley? Like, I don't know where they're going with Drew McIntyre. And this is the most interesting he's been since the early days of his WWE title run in the pandemic era. So, I mean, this is like, I'm not confident with this just because I think Drew McIntyre is such a wild card.
He is so interesting just by one kick. One Claymore has changed his entire outlook, or our entire outlook on him. And while I do think that WWE is going to consider this, and most fans have considered this the official turn, there is an argument to be made that it's not, considering what the Bloodline did to him at Clash at the Castle, and he has a right to get revenge. And costing Jay the tag team titles on Raw. He has a reason to do that. It's payback. It's just eye for an eye. So there's justification there. But the way that WWE has promoted Monday Night Raw, as I was looking through my email, they sent me emails about, the big things happening on Raw. They said that Drew is going to speak on his, quote, heinous actions from last week.
Heinous. Okay. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just heinous. I mean, I could think of a few things that are a little worse than that. But, I mean, so they've positioned this already with the language they're using that this is a heel turn. They don't use heinous with the baby face. So they are probably considering this as a heel turn. So that's fine. I mean, if they don't want to play games with is he not, we're probably looking too much into this, but WWE's maybe more simplistic on it. Fine, cool. We all wanted him heel anyway. We got what we wanted. And now there's a whole lot of fun, quote, I guess, pun intended, games to play. Now, as far as this match goes, we all know it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of violence, a lot of near falls, probably 14 crossroads involved in this match because Cody cannot, hit his finish just once and try to pin somebody. That's how much faith he has in his own finish. So I expect this to be a lot of fun as anyone would. But you're right. The wild card is Drew McIntyre, who is the most likely to probably get involved and try to cost Rhodes, Zayn, and Jay and Rollins. So I would imagine Drew's going to show his face. He may not be successful in helping them, or he may show up after the match is over. But outside of that, do you see a potential Randy or CM Punk? Because those are two names, especially Punk being in Chicago. Do you think there's any possibility of these two guys showing their face in this match or after the match?
I think that they have to. Like, look, I'm not sold on CM Punk just because there's been so many conflicting reports. But if it's not CM Punk, it has to be a consolation prize in Randy Orton. It has to be one of those two. I think regardless if it's not CM Punk, there will be some level of disappointment. You know that roof is going to be on the verge of getting popped off in, I guess, suspense of CM Punk, and there will be disappointment if it isn't CM Punk. But at the very minimum, it has to be Randy Orton. Like, I find that it has happened way too often in recent years that you've expected a big return and nothing really happened. And this is a pay-per-view that I don't think has a massive build, and there's no major title on the line with the exception of the women's world title, but we just kind of dissected as to why that doesn't feel as important as it should, despite Rhea Ripley's amazing character development. And given the fact that we are going to go 2 months without a PLE, you have to leave the crowd wanting something. Last year, Sami Zayn doubling down on the bloodline, as Michael Cole said, sold his soul, was a perfect way to get us all the way to Rumble. I don't think that we're going to have that here. There's nothing that feels even close to as significant of a story as we saw with Sami Zayn and the bloodline last year and him trying to prove his allegiance. I don't know if you could go off the air with the babyfaces standing tall and everyone feeling, satisfied, or Drew McIntyre helping the heels win and everyone being content with that cliffhanger. Like, I feel like given the gap of between now and the next PLE, and given how lackluster this entire pay-per-view feels as a whole, you have to give the crowd something. I understand that it may not be CM Punk, which we're all hoping for, but at the very least, you have to give them a Randy Orton. That's my rationale, just because I think people will be legitimately pissed off if it isn't one or the other.
People are expecting, you're right. There has to be something. And I've said that for like the last 6 months. Oh, Randy's going to be here. And I keep saying it, but he keeps inching closer. So I think Randy is a very strong possibility. Now, what I could see happening, say there is no return. Again, we get a womp womp. There's no Punk. There's no Randy Orton. There's none of that. I could see them doing something that, okay, the baby faces win, but at the end of this, Drew McIntyre comes out. They're all still brawling, and then we have Drew McIntyre, Claymore, Seth Rollins, and at the end of the match, we have Priest cash in on Rollins, who's already been destroyed from the match, and Drew McIntyre is the one that's going to hit the final blow. Drew McIntyre allows Damian Priest to cash in. We have a new World Heavyweight Champion after the match is over. And then Drew aligns himself with the bloodline, with the Judgment Day, with the understanding that he is going to receive the first championship opportunity from Damian Priest. If you remember from Monday, Drew and Rhea Ripley shook hands. So I could see them doing that as kind of a shock value. Oh my God, we got to cash in after the match. Seth's destroyed. Drew hits the final nail and puts him over even more as a heel. What do you think about that?
With Drew helping them win the heels, you mean?
Well, not involved in the War Games match. After the match is over and the baby faces win, lose, or draw, whatever, that's when the beatdown commences. They all brawl, and Seth's already, been beat up for 45 minutes, and that's when Damian Priest cashes in on Seth.
I mean, I don't want them to use Damian Priest cash in yet. Maybe I'm just so detached from it, but if anyone's listened to my shows, I really do think that this should be a close to a full 12-month run with Damian Priest as champion, just because I find far too often they squander the Money in the Bank briefcase within the first 6 months, and I don't know the last time that they waited close to a year. I want to say it was Dolph Ziggler when he cashed in right after WrestleMania after winning it in July. I guess it was back then. I think Damian Priest should keep it until post WrestleMania. And just because I think that there's so much more of a story to be told. So I'm going to say no. Maybe that's just me sticking to my guns and digging my heels in here. But I think that there's more of a story to be told with the Judgment Day with him holding that briefcase. And I think that there's more of a story to be told with him holding that briefcase into WrestleMania, because I don't think that Damian Priest just yet is ready for the main event or ready for prime time. Because if he is the world champion, who are you bumping out of a world title match at WrestleMania? Seth Rollins, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre. Like, I still think that there's more of a story to be told with Damian Priest right where he is right now. So I'm going to say no. And also because I guess that'd be a consolation prize, but I just feel like Survivor Series, again, given the way Crown Jewel ended and given the 2 months between another PLE, they have to send the crowd happy home in some way. And yes, that would be a major pop. Some people would just get off on the shock value, but it wouldn't be like a happy send-off. But then for me, I'm just stuck. It has to be Randy Orton or CM Punk, or else people will be pissed off. So I do like the idea. I just think that they're not quite there yet with Damian Priest.
Yeah, the timing is not exactly the greatest, given that we're very close to WrestleMania season now. What are you going to have Damian in one of the main events of WrestleMania? It still doesn't seem right yet for Damian, and he's come a long way from where he was, just a year, 2 years ago. So he has made strides, but is he really ready to be the guy going into WrestleMania season as champion? I mean, I don't know. So yeah, sure. I mean, you got a lot of time left on that briefcase in terms of when he has to cash in. I believe he won it in July or whenever Money in the Bank was. So he's got some time, and he has more than enough time to go past Mania and then cash in on the champion after that. So yeah, sure. I'm not saying it will happen, but it does. I mean, all the players are there. The match is there. It's a violent, brutal match. We have Send Your Money in the Bank. Damian Priest is in the match. Seth Rollins is on the other side of the ring. And you could see it being where Seth is down and out, and Damian Priest looks at the referee. He hands him the briefcase, and, boom, we got a new world champion. Again, I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying it's at least on the table of possibilities. But you're saying, okay, so your prediction is babyfaces win, Randy Orton returns. Do you think when you're saying he returns in the match or after the match?
Well, I think Drew McIntyre is going to play a factor in some form or fashion, probably on the heel side, because even if it isn't him being a full member of the Judgment Day, I think he's acting as a mercenary of sorts. Like, he's going into business for himself and he's doing whatever it takes to get there. So I think a Randy Orton will show up to even the odds. Now, I don't know if that means after, maybe, like, I could see something like this. Like, Rhea Ripley basically says, like, once the match is done, you help injure Seth even more to put Damian Priest in a position to cash in, and then you get the first crack at his world title. Something like that. So when the match is done, Drew shows up, beats the hell out of Seth, tries to position Damian in a position to cash in, much like we saw with Bobby Lashley attacking Drew 3 years ago now, so the Miz could cash in. Something very similar, but then a returning Randy Orton shows up to even the odds. Something along those lines.
Okay. No, that's, again, also plausible. The only issue that I would have in terms of this happening is that would mean that Randy Orton's going to be on Monday Night Raw. And if he's on Monday Night Raw, that means he's not there to help Phil Roman, who's never there. And he won't be on Roman's show, which means how are we going to get to Roman and Randy, if they even want to go there? So that's my only concern is, okay, you stick him on Raw, but then the idea to bring Randy back was to help soften the blow of Roman Reigns not being on SmackDown.
Yeah,
so that's the one thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy with these like brand loyalties. It's very complicated when you get to a level of Survivor Series and it's a mixed brand pay-per-view, because then the waters are all muddied. And to your point, like, SmackDown would need a Randy Orton before Raw, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And we've been, and one of the questions this week on After Dark was talking about all the star power being on Monday Night Raw. So you look at SmackDown right now, and it's like SmackDown's main event isn't involved in Survivor Series at all. How crazy is that? The US title isn't involved. Obviously, the Undisputed Championship isn't involved. LA Knight isn't involved. I mean, AJ Styles, if you even want to count him, isn't involved. Like Jimmy Uso, like, SmackDown's in a very bad place right now. That comment you just made really got to put things into perspective.
No, I now that I think about it, I do look at it and think, yeah, wow, without Roman Reigns' absence is a pretty big absence, and they could use a little bit of star power, a little bit of an injection, and Randy Orton on SmackDown actually makes a little more sense if you want to balance things a little more. So if there is no Randy Orton, pretend that's not the case. Do you think CM Punk actually does show up here and help some? I mean, I actually put CM Punk's return at like a 10% chance. I don't think there's a very strong, a really large chance because I don't know who you pair him with. I mean, I really don't know what you do outside of people thinking, oh, it's Roman Reigns. Well, he's not there.
I don't know, like CM Punk, like I guess he would have to go to SmackDown, but I feel like at WrestleMania he would be against Cody or Seth. Like, so he would kind of have to be on Monday Night Raw. They've really gone in a weird direction here with SmackDown since I would probably say SummerSlam-ish, because you had John Cena there. AJ Styles was being positioned in a semi-significant way. Then they wrote him off television. Sheamus hasn't been seen since his match with Edge in August. So it feels like, because yeah, like it would make more sense to have Randy on SmackDown or CM Punk on SmackDown. But if Roman's not there until January, what are they going to do on SmackDown until then? It's a very weird situation they have because it feels like all the action is on Monday Night Raw right now. So you'd want them to just jump into Monday Night Raw. But at the same time, SmackDown needs them more. But if you send them to SmackDown, what are they going to do? It's a very bizarre situation.
This is the drawbacks, one of the drawbacks of the brand split. And I like the brand split when it's done correctly and when you have a balanced roster and, but you're not always going to have everything being perfectly balanced. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have trades. You're going to have inconvenient appearances from Raw to SmackDown and SmackDown to Raw. And we're all supposed to not care. It's just the nature of the draft, and one that just is part of a draft is you have to deal with these things. And this is one of them. Randy, well, you're like you said, Randy comes back, but if he goes to SmackDown, what does he do? He makes more sense for him to go to Raw, but Raw's already got enough star power. However, this past week on SmackDown, Mr. Cody Rhodes did show up on SmackDown. He was in Nick Aldis's office in the background, and then he ends up showing up being, of course, Mr. White Knight doing the right thing and Mr. Moral Compass and making the save at the end of the show. And it's just what he seemingly does to get the fans to just love him as much as possible. And so there could be a big trade from Cody Rhodes going from Raw to SmackDown, and then you get Cody Rhodes on SmackDown, and then there you go. But I don't think that's what they're doing. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's getting to the point where, the draft is starting to show its age a little bit, and they're starting to bring people over that with no explanation, as always.
I think it just goes to show the state of SmackDown right now. Yeah. I think SmackDown is in a very bad place, and they have no other alternative but to make the show make it watchable, but to obliterate their own rules. And on a certain level, like, it's almost making me want to give them a pass. But at the same time, for the last 3 months, you built the show around pretty much a part-timer in John Cena. You did nothing to further a superstar like, let's say, Karrion Kross. Sheamus has been MIA. You were doing a decent job with AJ Styles, and then you wrote him off TV. Like, you have the talent. Like, I just don't really get where their creative direction has gone since the beginning of October here. Like, if you had done a decent job building up some of the guys you had, like, yeah, Santos Escobar is a nice story. The women's division has improved, but, like, aside from John Cena and LA Knight, they did nothing to really prepare us for top-level baby faces. The U.S. title is now on Logan Paul, who I think is still a part-timer for all intents and purposes. So I don't like not obeying to your own rules for the brand split, but I do get it just because of how bad of a position SmackDown is in star power-wise.
Oh, yeah, no, again, I'm a big believer, as you are too, of adhering to brand rules. But I also understand the temptation and the feeling of the need to bring people over because they still have ratings that they want to hit. They have sponsors that have paid a bunch of money to come on the show that you said you have X amount of viewers on. I understand all that. So while as a fan, I get super frustrated from a business perspective and a viewership perspective and numbers and dollars and cents, I absolutely understand why they do what they do. Even if as a fan, I'm just sitting here going, this is ridiculous. No one's even questioning it. Security should be here. I mean, it is kind of a conflict or very conflicting goals, and I understand that. But all right, well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Do you have any final thoughts or any other random things you want to talk about as far as this event goes?
All I'm saying, or one thing I just want to say and kind of ask you is, like, do you think that Roman Reigns missing Survivor Series is like the straw that finally broke the camel's back?
If this Survivor Series felt like it actually had a lot of meaning, if this Survivor Series felt like a normal Survivor Series in years past, and I'm talking pre even the brand, ridiculous, plain stupid brand supremacy stuff, when Survivor Series felt like Survivor Series, I would say this is it. I'm already done and I'm past it. But for the casual fan who's just getting frustrated by it, I think they're going to look at this and go, okay, it's Survivor Series. This is one of the big four. WTF is going on. And my back has been broken a long time ago now with Roman Reigns. So that's already a dead corpse rotting in the ground. So, but for most of the casual fans who have been a little more lenient, a little more patient with this, a little more understanding, well, maybe he's sick, maybe his cancer came back, maybe he's injured. I think even for those people, they're going to say, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think him missing Survivor Series, he's fought at one PLE since was it this year that SummerSlam was in July? No, that was last year, but it was still early August.
It was super early, yeah.
Yeah, super early August. So you pretty much missed August, you missed September, you missed October, you wrestled at the beginning of November, now you're going to miss December and all the way till the end of January. Like, it's egregious. And like you said, you're missing Survivor Series, a big four pay-per-view. Yeah. When's the last time the WWE champion was not on Survivor Series?
That's a stat I don't have the top. I don't know.
Probably never. That's probably the answer, because even Brock Lesnar at the peak of his world title runs and his part-time schedule never missed this much. Like, Brock Lesnar felt full-time compared to this.
He does. He felt like he was even working house shows. I mean, that's how often he was here compared to Roman. I mean, we have just, I don't know what more to say about this run other than just like, we like Roman Reigns. We love his character. He's been an absolute magic in the ring. He has, he is a Hall of Famer right now. All of that is 100% true, but like, there's nothing left to gain other than just day tick 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 tick. There's for me nothing left to say about it. I don't know what they could gain outside of just beat Hulk Hogan's record, and the fans are going to go, okay, cool. And then he gets to number 2. The fans going to okay, cool. Like, the fans aren't going to feel any different about Roman whether he is 1,300 days or 2,800 days and beats Bruno Sammartino. I'm sorry, the fans don't care. This is a very kind of a selfish act by WWE for whatever reasons they have. It's selfish for us to have to endure a SmackDown without a champion, and it's especially selfish for WWE or management. You have to have the guys on SmackDown or whatever brand Roman appears on to not have a championship for them to be able to contend with and work with and have that moment for their own careers. I mean, it's just, yeah. So that's all I've got left.
Yeah, there's only so much you could say on the Roman Reigns stuff, and like it is like you said, like, what was the terminology you used? Like, we've told how many chapters on it. Like, there's not much left to say, and they've kind of corrected with the World Heavyweight Championship, but at this point, it's almost like I'm numb to it now. Like, it's almost just become like a parody of itself at this point.
That's all it is. Because if I don't, I mean, it's because my brain, there's like that part of your brain that if you go through a traumatic event, it blocks out what that event is. It's like that over and over. My brain is just protecting me from the trauma of this Roman Reigns run. And again, it's not to say this run is legendary in the sense that it's legendary in its length. That's it. It's legendary in its length. And if length is the only card you have to play left, then you should probably abandon ship at that point, because you cannot be a one-trick pony with this whole run and go, wow, we've got length. Oh, look, 1,100 days, 1,200. Oh, my God, isn't this better? Isn't 1,200 better than 1,100? Isn't 1,500? Like, that's all they've got left. All right.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, it's honestly, like, I think that, and I think you beat this drum a lot, had they ended it last year in Montreal, not just because I was there, but had they ended it last year in Montreal, you could say it all was worth it.
100%. 100. I don't feel any different now on November 20th than I did on February 20th. How many months ago that was, from the time that I said, okay, well, maybe I'll feel different. I don't feel any different. In fact, looking back, I feel even stronger that it should have been Sami Zayn. Looking back at how everything perfectly aligned in a very rare formation of, this is the guy, this is the time, it's in his hometown, he is a somewhat young talent, the fans organically love him, Roman has had a legendary run already, we've just effing do this, and they didn't. And I still believe even stronger now that that was a very bad move on WWE's part, because what have we gained from February to now? A whole bunch of rare appearances, a whole bunch of gaps in appearances. We've gained nothing.
Except you got to that illustrious 1,000 days, right?
Oh,
that changed all of this. It changed everything.
Man, that was the game changer, man. Oh, now they can. That's true. Now they can print T-shirts. They can make their documentary. That was what I was worried about, and it has come true. So, all right. Well, I'm going to leave it there. I hope everyone does enjoy Survivor Series. This actually should be a fun show. Hopefully, there is a return or two, and we're not left at the end of the show going, "Oh, where's Randy? Where's Punk? Where's me? I don't know, Big E? Where Hopefully we get something. I hope there is some. Maybe LA Knight shows up and hits a BTF on somebody, or BFT. I hope that happens. Something. We get some kind of appearance and some kind of a moment, so to speak. But any final comments before we head out here?
No, I just hope it over-delivers. But under the Triple H era, maybe with the exception for a few odd pay-per-views here and there, that's kind of become like a hallmark of his PLEs.
Yeah, and I expect nothing less here. So, alrighty, well, enjoy the pay-per-view, and we will be chatting in a week with, I'm sure, a very in-depth review. So it'll be fun.
Looking forward to it, man. Enjoy the PLE.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.